What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so I want to correct something that I have found out that I had said in an earlier video was not correct. Okay. Now, this is something I read in the New York Times. So, this is another lesson, even to me, not to believe everything that you read just because it comes from a supposed reputable source. I read a New York Times a New York Times post that the money earmarked for the Biden Harris campaign could not be moved uh, due to campaign rules. That was going to be what forced Kamala to run for office because it could not go to another candidate. But from what I've read and what I've heard is that that's not the case. Um, that money goes back to the party, to the DNC. So that money can be fielded toward a replacement candidate. However, what I do believe is going on now is that Democratic donors have run for the hills after Joe Biden's pathetic debate performance. That's why, if you've noticed that since the debates, have you gone on YouTube or in other websites, and have you noticed all of a sudden you're starting to see these little ads pop up with Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Michelle Obama or Kamala Harris all asking for campaign donations because the donors have dried up because they're trying to run away from this debacle, which is the Biden candidacy. And he's clearly not in charge. I mean, just today, I think it was, no, it was yesterday, excuse me, yesterday. Kamala Harris slipped up and called him Vice President Biden, or she almost did before she caught himself. He's not really in charge. That also shows that she is extraordinarily ambitious and wants to be president. She thinks of herself as president. That's what she wants. She's power hungry, and a person like that, we can't allow to be in the White House. We can't let him out. We just can't. But anyway, I've been telling you guys that Joe Biden is in trouble. And it's not just one poll or two polls, it's all of the polls. It's the polling that I've been talking about for going on 3 years now. And I remember when I started talking about this, August of 2021. Oh, it's just a poll. Oh, man, I don't believe no polls, man. Oh, polls, man. Look, man, I sure wouldn't want you guys to be my advisors when it comes to stock options because it's quite clear now that Joe Biden is headed for a horrible defeat in November. I think this is inevitable. Um, you know, I'm gonna tell you something. I've been talking about politics here on YouTube since 2012. Didn't have a channel back in 2008, but I had a channel, but I wasn't talking videos back then. Even in 2008, when Joe Biden picked Sarah Palin, not Joe Biden, excuse me, uh, John McCain. When John McCain picked Sarah Palin to be his VP, he got a bump in the polls. Even though I still thought that Obama would win, I wasn't quite sure, you know, how much he would win by. And then there was a little bit of period when I was kind of thinking to myself, I don't know, man. These polls look good for Obama, but we're still in uncharted territory. You know what I'm saying? We never had a major party nominee. I don't know if the Bradley effect is still viable or the Wilder effect. If you don't know what I mean by that, there was this phenomenon that we used to see in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, into 2000s, where pollsters would pollsters would talk to voters, and because the voters were afraid of being seen as racist, they would tell the pollsters, "Oh, I'm going to vote for uh, Doug Wilder," or "I'm going to vote for Tom Bradley." Tom Bradley ran for governor back in 1982. Doug Wilder ran for governor back in 1989 of Virginia, my state. The polls had Doug Wilder up 8 to 10 points. Doug Wilder wound up only winning by something around 7,000 votes or 8,000 votes out of, I think, 1.7 million cast. I think it was 898,000 to 890,000 or something like that. Tom Bradley was supposed to have been elected by like 3 or 4 points. He lost by 100,000 votes. That's what I was afraid of with Barack Obama, but it didn't happen. This is the first election where I am very, very concerned about Trump. And when I say concerned, I mean, I think it's almost inevitable that he's going to win. I think it's more along the lines of how big a margin. I think this is the first election where I felt like this, honestly, since 1996. I think everybody knew Bob Dole was going to lose to Bill Clinton. There was jokes made about it. Saturday Night Live used to make jokes about it. The question was how big a margin would he lose by? And partially because of voter apathy, Bill Clinton didn't win by the margin expected, but he still won big. Look at this poll. Look at this poll tracking right here as far as state by state. If you look at that, right now, Donald Trump is on track to win 333 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 205. To me, you start reaching blowout territory once you get past 350, 360. So he's a little bit of ways from that. But that's still a considerable victory when you look at the map. The electoral map sort of favors Democrats because the bigger states, California, New York, Illinois, usually Pennsylvania, used to be Florida. They were all either toss-ups or leaned or were heavily Democratic. Joe Biden carried 25 states back in 2020, 25 states. Right now, he's on pace to only carry 16 states to the District of Columbia. Right now, 9 states that he carried back in 2020, Arizona, New Mexico, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Virginia, New Hampshire, Nevada. He's on pace to lose all of these states, all of them. That's 99 electoral votes that he won last time that he's on pace to lose. 99. Remember, back in 2012, when Obama won re-election, he carried Ohio comfortably. He carried Iowa comfortably. He carried Florida by a slim margin. And in 2008, he was able to pick off Indiana, North Carolina from the Republicans, and he almost carried Missouri. He only lost Missouri by 4,000 votes out of something about, I think it was something around 2.9 million cast. So the Democrats have lost a lot of ground, man. And to be honest with you, some of the polling in Minnesota and Colorado is starting to narrow there. Minnesota, this is the best opportunity for a Republican to carry the state of Minnesota since 1972. Even Walter Mondale, when he lost in a 49-state landslide to Ronald Reagan back in 1984, was able to carry his home state of Minnesota. Minnesota has not been carried by a Republican since 1972. Richard Nixon defeated George McGovern in his 49-state landslide in 1970. It's the last time it went Republican, and it's trending that way. So if he picks off Minnesota, that puts him to 343. And if he carries, Colorado is 353. Now we're talking getting into landslide electoral territory. The popular vote still might be won by Biden. You know why? Because Democrats rack up such huge majorities in New York, Illinois, and California. California cast something like 17 plus million votes in 2020. So this time around, maybe 19 million people might vote in California. So you got that many people voting, and if Biden even gets 55% of the vote there, 57% of the vote there, he's not going to get 66% again like he did last time, or 65%. He's going to get maybe 57, 58%. That's still a huge majority. So that's why Biden's probably still going to win the popular vote. That's why these national polls, they matter a little bit, but it's the state by state races that really matter when it comes to the presidency, because we don't elect presidents by popular vote. We elect them by this archaic system going back to the founding fathers, the Electoral College. You know, that's why if you look at the map, it looks like it's all red, but Biden still can get 200 Electoral College votes. But man, I mean, if it gets really, really, really bad, I'm gonna tell you how bad it could possibly get. And this is if everything goes wrong. I think if everything goes wrong, Trump could pick off Minnesota. Trump could pick off Colorado. That's 353. Mind you, the map isn't showing this, but last time Joe Biden got an electoral vote out of, I think, the 3rd congressional district in Nebraska, because Nebraska and Maine are the 2 states in the union that apportion the electoral votes by the congressional district and not at-large winners. So Trump will probably get the electoral vote back in Nebraska. That's 354. Then in Maine, Trump got electoral vote there in 2020. Biden got the other 3. Maine, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump could pull off a victory there. If he does, that's 358. I don't think he's going to win Massachusetts. I don't think he can win there. I don't think he can win in Vermont. Connecticut, no. I don't think he could win in New Jersey. I mean, it would have to take a seismic shift. I got to look at the polling in New Jersey, but last time I looked at the polling, it was narrower than it was 2020, but I think Biden will still hold on. If Biden was to lose New Jersey, then he's really in trouble. I mean, really in trouble. It's bad, man. It's bad. It's bad. And you got to also keep in mind that the mainstream media is doing everything they can to block out, candidates like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Cornel West. Why? Because those candidates would probably hurt Biden a little bit. Well, especially Cornel West would hurt Biden a lot more than he would hurt Trump. And the reason that's the case is because if you read, right-wing groups and donors are donating to Cornel West because they want him to run so that he can hurt Biden. But RFK Jr. probably would pick off more Biden voters than Trump voters. So by default, he would help Trump. They don't want that. So that's why they don't push him. You know what I mean? That's why in 2016, they tried to trip up the Libertarian candidate in that election. Asking him, do you know where what Aleppo is and where it is? And nobody knew what the hell that was, and people don't remember anything about it. They made such a big deal out of it because they wanted to ruin him. They wanted to, ruin him as a plausible alternative to Hillary Clinton. Gary Johnson. Remember that? Oh, you don't know what Aleppo is and what's going on there? How could you be president? Most Americans can't even spell Aleppo, nor rather than point out on a map. But yeah, just wanted to share this video with you guys. It's looking bad, man. It's looking really, really bad. I don't think Trump could win Oregon and Washington. Those states are not conducive to him winning. Culturally, Trump is a horrible fit for those states. But Colorado, especially considering that Colorado has a different type of liberal there. Even voters who identify as liberal in Colorado tend to be more pro-gun, more anti-abortion, or at least when it comes to abortion, they might be, well, okay, in cases of incest or rape, or I shouldn't have said that word, but they might have exceptions to that, but they just run a little bit different. And they tend to be more, I would almost say, libertarian. And Colorado's whiter, let's be honest. So that's a state more conducive to Trump. When same thing with Minnesota. Minnesota's progressive, but it's a different type of progressive. And Trump's populist type personality, his rhetoric can appeal to a lot of those voters. That's why Trump did pretty well, even though he narrowly lost those states. Remember, Hillary, I think, only carried Minnesota by like 2 percentage points. And Trump is in a much better position, in my opinion, even with all his negatives. Trump is in a much better position to clean the table this time than he did against even Hillary. So, and I'm gonna tell you something. If this was a stronger Republican candidate, because Trump's toxicity is hurting him. If this was a stronger this was like Mitt Romney. If this was like Mitt Romney or John McCain running against Joe Biden, it would be even worse. If this was, let me tell you something. If this was John McCain, the 2000 version, running against Joe Biden, I think Maine would be gone. I think Connecticut would be gone. I think New Jersey would be gone. Minnesota, Colorado, and possibly, I would say even it'd be close in maybe Oregon. But anyway, just want to put this out there, man. Tell me what you guys think.